Live. And we are live. Hello, everybody.
Live and direct.
Live and direct.
Let me flip this over. There we go.
So now I'm going to mute you in Discord.
Yeah.
And this is awesome. So I am getting a fair amount of noise coming through, but I think as the recorded audience might not know, it is sweltering hot in Southern California, and where we live by the beach. You don't need air conditioning. So it's 87 degrees in Steve's studio and 85 in mine. So this could be fun, huh? All right. Let me do a little playback test here. Make sure I've got things set up right. Tell me if you guys hear the music. And I don't hear the music. So I think we will check that. Why don't I hear the music? Okay. That should be coming through on that. Output should be on that. Why is that? I am not hearing this.
We all hear it.
Do you? Oh.
Yeah.
There it is. Because Hindenburg was muted by what do you call? Sound source. Okay, so it must be time for roll call. It is time. We are up here with Brett and Kevin and Dave and Jason, the GIF star, and my darling daughter, Lindsay. Steve's also. Mike Price, also known as Grumpy. We've got Rick and Sandy and Michael Westbay and Alistair coming in his lunchtime, I think. Let's see who's in the sidebar. We've got John is here and Rose from Australia. And, of course, the lovely Frank and some Titan bots. Don't know who else that is. But I think we should probably get going. What do you think, Steve?
I think we're ready.
Oh, you know what we are going to hear? We're going to hear those curtains rattling. Let me know if you can hear them. They go... Did you hear that?
I heard mine.
Shoot, I'm going to have to close them. Okay, I have no air. Other than two fans Steve set up for me.
Other than two fans, right?
I just keep looking at the temperature and be glad it's happier where you are. Or it's colder than your office, right? All right. I think we're ready. I'm going to mute. Oh, Steve muted himself? No, I'm going to mute Steve. There we go. All right, here we go. Now what is Jason doing? Okay. Hi, this is... Why is it so loud? Bring you down. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, August 16th, 2020, and this is show number 797. It is really super hot in California right now, so I might start talking really fast to get this recording done before I boil. It is 85 degrees Fahrenheit in my studio and 87 in Steve's. And that's just as we were starting to fire up all the processing power we can to get the live show going. Can't wait to see how hot it is by the time we finish. I did have my windows open, but you could hear road noise, birds, squirrels, and skateboarders. But I decided to go ahead and close them, so wish me good luck here. This week's Chit Chat Across the Pond was an episode of Taming the Terminal, where Bart taught us even more about the terminal command tmux. He finished up his 3-part mini-series by first teaching us to string a whole bunch of commands together to create a tmux session that's just the way we like it. He showed us how to, in one single command, open a session with the windows and panes split just the way we wanted them, with the commands running in the panes we wanted them to run in, and even with the prompt left waiting for us in the pane where we wanted it to be. Now, while learning to string all these commands together was pretty cool, he then showed us how to quickly make this long command into a shell script that we can run at any time and not worry our pretty little heads about remembering all of these commands. If you'd like to listen to this episode, there are a lot of ways to do it. You can subscribe to the Taming the Terminal podcast in your podcatcher of choice, or you can pick it up in the Chit Chat Across the Pond feed in your podcatcher. Or you can simply download the Taming the Terminal book in the format of your choice at podfeet.com/TTTbook. Now, putting this episode out was a pretty interesting challenge now that it is a book. As you learned in last week's Chit Chat Across the Pond, Dr. Helma van der Linden automated the process of the book creation. But for me to push out the podcast episode into the feed, the web presence of Taming the Terminal installment has to exist first. So it's not a blog post anymore, but that document needs to exist on the web before I can push out the feed. But Helma can't make that web presence exist till the audio file exists up on archive.org. But the Taming the Terminal audio file doesn't exist until I finish the Chit Chat Across the Pond version of the audio. You see, they have different intros and outros. And Steve creates the Taming the Terminal audio and puts it up on archive.org, so we had to back up and have him do all of that first. I have to say, I nearly lost what's left of my marbles trying to even figure out what logo went where. Now, the show notes for this episode are no longer a blog post, like I said. Each chapter in the book is actually an anchor link within a single very long HTML file. That sounds dreadful, but it actually works beautifully because the chapter links are in the left sidebar, and it makes it super easy to jump between chapters, and the text looks beautiful there. So Helma created the HTML version of the book for me first so that the podcast feeds could point to it. And then tonight, after I go to sleep, and she's sure I won't be messing with anything, her automated processes will update all of the other versions, I think. Now, I honestly have no idea whether those with, say, the Apple Books version will get a notification that there's an update to their book. If you subscribe to the GitHub project, I have been led to believe that you'll get a notification, but I don't really know what that would look like either. I guess we'll all find out on Monday whether you get the book update or not. Okay. Lose my marbles. Guy's fast. Wait, there's a Taming the Terminal book? Nice, John.
John's catching up.
I am doing it. I think he's funning us is what he's doing,
I
Steve.
think he might be.
Oh, I forgot to say you can actually listen to it I'll get it out yet. I forgot that you can also listen to it at podfeet.com. Let me put a link to it. Let's see if it shows up under Taming the Terminal. It should be here. Look at that. How about that version? Put that here. Or you can simply listen over at Thinkified Clipboard. There we go. Text expander's broken. Oh, I'm going to have to write a URL by hand. What's the chances of me doing that right?
Low.
ahreg ahref equals quote paste unquote. Nope. That's not it. Let's just do this. Wow, I don't even know.
How come I don't see any chapters that you're entering?
Because I'm writing in the blog right now.
Oh, okay. Got
In the
it.
blog post. And I found a really bad typo. Let's see, where does this start? How about right here? This week's chit chat. Yep, there it is. And now I will, there, I'm putting in something. Does that make you happy?
There you go.
All right, we'll put that here and then there. That's long. What was it? Outgrow. Intros and outros.
Outgrows.
I never know how to spell outro. Is there 2 T's, Sandy, or 1?
No, that's one.
You think outro?
Intro has one.
Yeah, but out has a T in it.
So does int.
Oh,
Introduction.
Sandy says 2.
Wait a minute. Introduction has one T.
Right, but this is
Oh,
an
you're saying out
outroduction.
plus a outroduction.
I don't think outros is even a real word, probably.
No, it was made up. It's cleaner with one. Looks weird with
Okay.
2.
All right, now let's go to
Sandy, I'm going to have to
this.
overrule you.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to pick what you say over Sandy. All right, this next one is simply to make you impressed with what I do after I hang up on you guys at the end of the show. This might actually only be fun for you guys.
And maybe only them.
Maybe. All right. Lindsay says outro totally has 2.
Oh, come on.
Now I will always remember this. I look at it every time and it auto corrects it to something else anyway.
Outtray? Outtray wants to change it to outtray.
No, it did it to outgrow the first time and then it just changed it to out the second time. All right, here we go. We have a chapter mark. Are you ready? Places, everybody? Oh, hers. Mac wants to change it to outtray. That's nice. All right. Muting. Oh, Steve muted himself. Look at him go, girl. I thought it might be fun to pull back the curtain on how the magic happens after we stop recording the live show every Sunday night, because it's pretty geeky. Since this is a podcast for geeks, it seems like that might be interesting to you. I've never written the process down before, but I've done it so many times it just sort of flows out of my fingers. To set the stage, Steve broadcasts the live show to YouTube from his iMac using a tool called Mimo Live from Boinks. He's broadcasting video from my webcam and his, audio from my microphone and from my recording software, Hindenburg Journalist, and video of Hindenburg, just to give the live people something to watch as I'm doing the recordings. I send all of that to his Mimo Live from an installation of Mimo Live on my Mac. He's also broadcasting the live chat window on Discord. While he's doing all of that production, I'm recording the actual podcast using Hindenburg. Well, this is probably hard for you to picture in your head, and this isn't anything I haven't told you about before. But today I want to describe every single thing that happens from the minute I wave goodbye to the live audience until the podcast shows up in your feed. Quick little break there. Okay. I have 2 little automator scripts I wrote, one called Live Show and the other one called Live Shows Over. The first one turns off all of the cloud service syncing that I normally run, like any backup functions or like Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, and then it also launches all of the apps that I will need in order to run the live show and do the recording. After the live show, I run Live Shows Over to turn all of those cloud services back on and to quit a few of the apps I use for the live show, but it leaves some of them on because I need them for the post-production of the podcast. Next up, Hindenburg Journalist has been happily recording in its native format, but I need to export the audio as an Apple lossless M4A file. I'm going to be doing some processing on the file, so I can't export into MP3 just yet. M4A is smaller than an uncompressed format like WAV or AIFF, but it is lossless and saves the all-important chapter marks for the NosillaCast. After exporting from Hindenburg, I usually sample the file a little bit to make sure I didn't, mute a track so that there's something completely missing. It's not a full sampling, so problems do sometimes get past me, but I can live with that rare occurrence versus listening to an hour or longer show of myself yapping. I then upload the M4A file to a service called Auphonic. This service provides several functions for you, the most important of which is to level my audio and bring the audio up to the loudness standards. I pay for this service online because the desktop version doesn't preserve the chapter marks the way you like them. It then converts the audio to MP3 format. It also adds the album artwork to the file and then does the file transfer from its own servers over to Libsyn, which is yet another online service where I host the files. And that's where you're actually downloading them from when you get the podcast in your feed. When it's done doing these functions, Auphonic reveals a page to me with the waveform of the original audio and the waveform of the processed audio and a link where I can download the MP3. I think this graphic is really mostly eye candy to see how much more even and what a better volume the audio files are, but I really love it. You can also play them from that window, but I don't really find that necessary. But it's a really cool feature. I then click the download button, and then the system preference app Hazel automatically takes the downloaded MP3 file out of my downloads folder and puts it into my NosillaCast audio folder on my Mac for the current year. I have another Hazel script that watches that folder, and when 2 weeks have passed, it copies the Hindenburg and downloaded MP3 to my Synology and removes them from my local drive. Before I added that automation, I was always running out of disk space because I'd forget to go move all the files off of my drive. Now, of course, after the Synology gets the file, Carbon Copy Cloner, running on a Mac on my network, moves a copy over to the Drobo as a backup. I write my blog posts in an app called MarsEdit throughout the week, and then I make one post with all of the week's links for the NosillaCast episode. I create this post before I go live. In order to get the links into MarsEdit for the blog posts, I use an Automator quick action I wrote that copies the title and the URL and then formats it nicely so you see the title, but it's a clickable link to the podcast episode. And it's formatted as a heading 4 for easy navigation, especially for screen readers. The real backbone of a podcast is the RSS file, also known as the feed file. Without that feed file, this would just be audio in the internet and it would never get delivered to you in your podcatcher of choice. I use an app called Feeder to create the feed for you. Each episode is in what's called an item. The text in this item is what you see in your podcatcher if you look at the show notes. First, I copied the title of the episode from MarsEdit and I paste it in as the name of the episode into Feeder. Then I plop in a text expander snippet that gives me the beginning of an unordered bulleted list and all of the standard links at the end to things like Patreon and our Slack community and how to email me. That's how that shows up in your feed. Back in MarsEdit, I copy each of the URLs in the blog post for the episode, including their titles, one by one. That puts them all into my clipboard manager, copy and paste. I flip back over to Feeder, and with another text expander snippet, I add list items to that unordered list I mentioned, and then I use copy and paste to paste them each into Feeder. So it's kind of a bunch of copy, and then I go over and I go paste, 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 paste. So it's not as bad as copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. I'm betting there's a more efficient way to do what I just described, but I'll work on making that more automated another day. Now, Feeder needs to know where the enclosure file is, which in this case is the MP3 file I talked about earlier that I put up on Libsyn, or actually Auphonic put it on Libsyn for me. I have another text expander snippet that puts the URL over on Libsyn, puts in the URL over from Libsyn, but also adds a little bit of information on the front to a service called Blueberry. That gives me a little nicer view of the number of downloads than Libsyn does, and then the text expander snippet adds the podcast episode name, which is the date in a known and consistent format. It's important to have things like this automated, or you get kind of anarchy in your naming convention because you're human and you might make mistakes. I make more than most, but I know enough to automate things so that you don't get as many mistakes as you would. In Feeder, next to the URL of the enclosure, there's a dropdown, and I choose Fetch Attributions from Web. So in this URL, all I've done is I've said, this is where I think the audio file is. When I choose Fetch Attributions from Web, It looks at the URL I entered, figures out the file type for me. In my case, it's usually audio/MPEG, and then it finds the length of the file in bits. These two pieces of information have to be in the feed, and Feeder figures that out for me. Last week's show, for example, speaking of bits, last week's show was 52,063,241 bits. I thought you probably needed to know that. Anyway, if Feeder successfully finds that information and enters it for me, that does something else. It lets me know that the file has definitely arrived on Libsyn servers from Auphonic servers. I also use the file length in Feeder to compare to the file size on my disk to make sure I upload it and link to the right file. It's not uncommon for me to somehow get mixed up on this part, so it's kind of a nice double check. If I see it says it's 70 megabytes and it should have been 60 megabytes, then maybe it's not the right file. I also look at the info on the file on disk to find out how long the episode is in time, I should say. So, no, too mumbly. I knew it. Steve's not even listening. I also, where'd he go? He just left. He doesn't even care. Do you guys care? All right, I saved. I kind of like Discord in white. I also look at the information on the file on disk to find out how long the episode is in time. And I do that so that I can enter it in the episode duration over in Feeder. I do this for one listener who asked me to do it because he likes to sort his podcasts by how long they are. I sure hope he's still listening and he appreciates it. Actually, if anybody else does that, anybody else appreciates that you can see how long it is in time, that'd be interesting because I do that by hand. I should mention that Feeder can do the file transfer for you using its own built-in FTP client, and it can figure out the length and time of the file for you. But for the reasons I explained earlier, I do it all through Auphonic so that I get the benefits of that service. Finally, I enter the URL of the current blog post that doesn't exist yet, but will be generated by Mars Edit when it gets posted. Now, this is another dodgy point I really should automate. I get lazy and I just type H, and Text Expander autofills the previous week's entry for the NosillaCast. Now, the URLs all end in /nc-xxx, where the last digits are the episode number, so I just change the episode number. But what I often forget is that a little bit earlier in the URL is the year and month, and if I forget to change the month when it changes, then the URL won't work. But luckily, a gentleman named Tim McCoy is always standing by to let me know when I screw that up. All right, now it's time to finally finish up the blog post in Mars Edit. I use yet another Text Expander snippet to plop in the URL to play the podcast episode right from the webpage in an HTML5 player, and I give you a downloadable link because some people just like to download them. I got to tell you, we're here to please. Now, this is a tricky Text Expander snippet, though, because I have one for Chit Chat Across the Pond and one for the NosillaCast, and I sometimes get them mixed up. But don't worry, I always check it before I hit publish. At this point, I push the blog post as a draft from Mars Edit to WordPress on podfeet.com. I point to the NosillaCast logo as a featured image, and I make sure it has the alt tags identifying it for screen readers. Then I do a preview from WordPress, and I scan the page for anything that looks dumb, like an image too big or a missing link. I also click the audio player to see if it not only plays, but it plays the right episode. If it doesn't play at all, this is usually an indication that I used the Chit Chat Across the Pond snippet instead of the NosillaCast snippet, so it's got the right date, but it's got the wrong file extension, which means it won't find any file at all. Next, I go back to the draft post, and I scroll to the very bottom, and I watch the Grammarly plugin go to work finding typos. I bet you're surprised I run this, since there are so often typos that simply get past me, but even Grammarly doesn't find everything. After it tells me I forgot nearly all of the Oxford commas and finds a few other typos, I run one last preview and then I hit the publish button. So now we've got the blog post. And once that finally exists, I can hit publish over in Feeder. At this instant, the podcast is live. And I really mean instant. I hit publish, I see a little progress thing, and then it's ready. It is totally done. There is no undo at this point. All I can do if I messed it up is redo the feed publication. If your podcatcher is quick about it, you'll get the messed up one well before I can fix a problem. That's just the name of the game. So immediately after publishing using Feeder, I launched the podcatcher Downcast for Mac. This is the fastest way for me to see that the podcast did download, and I can check that it's got chapter marks, and yet again, check to see if I actually uploaded the right episode. If all things went well, and 92.6% of the time they do go well, it's time to spam the internet. I open the blog page for the podcast, and I run another automator quick action that grabs the title and URL, but this time doesn't combine them into an HTML link. It puts the title followed by the URL. Then I open Tweetbot for Mac to my Podfeed personality, and I paste in the title and URL. I then simply drag the featured image from the blog post to the tweet, and I hit send. I then flip to my NosillaCast account in Tweetbot, and I retweet the post Podfeed just made. You really don't need to follow the NosillaCast account because all it is retweets of the podcast stuff Podfeed does. Then again, if you do that, just follow the NosillaCast account, you don't have to see photos of me and Steve giving our grandson a cake pop and just a little smidge of politics. Just your choice. Now I open Facebook to the NosillaCast community page, and I paste in the same title and URL that I put in Twitter. I wait what seems like an interminable length of time for it to expose the featured image, or not find the featured image, depending on its mood, and then I hit post. Then I hit the share button to share the same post to my personal Allison account on Facebook, where people seem to enjoy seeing those. Or, I don't know, maybe they're just trying to make me feel good by saying they like that I posted there. I'm not sure. Now it's time to hit our Slack community and paste in the same title and URL to the show announcements channel. I like that it's a separate channel so that if you don't want my spam, you don't have to subscribe to that channel. You can read all the fun ones like the PBS channel and security bits and even Delete Me. That's a really fun channel. But if you want to get the show announcements, that's where you get them. There's one final step in the post-production. I need to charge the Patreon supporters. They pay the bills around here. Libsyn and Auphonic and Podfeed hosting are not free, and neither are most of the apps I've described here. So you really should thank them for making all of this happen. In Patreon, I create a link type post, and to fill it out, I go to the published blog post for the episode. I copy the URL and the title one by one from that page. And then I put Feeder into its preview mode where all of the links look pretty. And it's kind of funny. I'm not looking at the HTML. I have to look at the pretty view, and I select those and I copy all of those links. That puts all three of those pieces of information, the title, the URL, and all the links into copy and paste. Go back to the Patreon page. I use copy and paste to paste the links to the body, the title to the title, and finally, last, I put the blog post link to the link field. I do that last because Patreon makes my featured image logo huge on the page, and when it renders the link, I have to scroll a lot if I let it do that first. Finally, I check the little box that says Charge Patrons. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning everything I do in post-production for the NosillaCast. I'm kind of proud of how I do all of this, and I find it kind of amazing that I don't mess it up more often since there are so many moving parts and so many different applications and services that are involved. Guess how long it takes me to do all of this? Less than half an hour. Usually 15 minutes. Stop. Whew. Did you guys know I did all of this?
That's a lot of stuff there, Podfeed.
Oh my gosh, Sandy, we have the answer for your glasses prescription. Oh, that's right. You have to get the prescription first.
So, a couple things here.
Aliha,
I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, joined us, and we met her
Aliha Dudley?
at CSUN last year.
Yeah. Hi, Aliha. How are
First
you?
time in Discord.
Sweet.
No,
I thought Discord wasn't terribly accessible.
Well, that's
that was
what
the one
she
thing.
just said, which I was surprised. Let me find
I don't
her.
see her in live show listen.
No, she's in the chat room, but she did say, hi. Joining for the first time really as Discord seems to be a bit more accessible now. Loving the live show.
Oh, good.
So I didn't know
Let me
that.
tell her. Actually, can somebody tell her, Sandy, you're in charge of the girls. Can you tell her how to look for live show listen? And to click it somehow? Steve's doing it, I think.
No,
Brett and Sandy are
I'm
doing it.
letting your
Okay,
wing
good.
woman do it. Couple
All
other
right.
things. Frank asked why you're not using the levelator. He was a little surprised.
So the Levelator does not support chapter marks, is one reason. And the Levelator, while it does a great job of leveling the audio, it doesn't bring it up to the loudness standards. So those are two things that I kind of like. That my audio is a consistent volume, and it'll be consistent across anybody else who's following the standards. I don't know whether very many people follow the standards, but the idea is that you shouldn't have to keep turning the volume up and down when you switch podcasts. But the big thing is you guys want those chapter marks. I do use the desktop version of Auphonic for Chit Chat because Chit Chat doesn't have chapter marks, and you pay for Auphonic based on how many hours of audio you send through it a week. And I bought the desktop version for $100, and so I run that one when I'm just doing Chit Chat. Does that make any sense? Okay, so she says, a little clunky to get around this thing on Windows with the screen reader still. Did not even see it in the list. Okay.
But she's in live
Oh, there
show
she
listen.
is. Oh,
So-
goody. Can you hear me now, Aliha?
So she
Oh,
may.
sweet.
So it does get. Let's make it clear that that's basically the same audio feed that you'd hear on the video through YouTube or the live show, but it's
Yeah,
not.
she may not.
It's not delayed, so it's gonna be hard to listen to both if you've got both going.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Oh, you were listening on YouTube first. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for you, it might not make a huge difference.
But there's no
but-
delay, so the comments are more
Yeah.
in sync with the audio that way.
Yeah,
If you're on
that's
the
kinda the
live
nice
show
thing.
listen Discord.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy you came, Aliha. That's really cool. Yeah, Aliha's one of my favorite blind friends.
And Rose is thinking of getting a Mac Mini, looking for advice.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
So
That's a great idea.
Then you start looking at, the new Apple Silicon machines
Yeah.
are going to be coming out. So if you want to save money, you could get the current model, which will become the old model, when they release the Silicon machines.
Well, you don't know that it's going to be cheaper.
No, I'm saying, no, they normally knock down the price of the current machines when the new ones come out. If you want to save money,
Yeah.
that's one way to do it. But
This
or
might-
you
this might
jump
get
to the new
different
ones.
though, because like they're just putting out versions, new versions of Intel-based iMacs, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to stick with Intel because they're scaredy cats.
And you think they might do the same with Mac Minis?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I would
hard to
definitely
tell.
wait to see though.
Yeah, I
would
wouldn't
wait
buy
and
one
find
right
out.
now.
Yeah.
Because what is the timing? What did they said the timing
before
for
the end of the year, something is going to
But
come
we
out.
don't know which machines, right?
Right.
We've heard.
Oh. Kevin, you're supposed to behave yourself on people's first day. When there's new people, we've talked to you about this. You're supposed to be nice. And then the next time they come, that's when you can start getting snarky and show your true colors. Those are the rules, Kevin. Stick with it.
Kevin's doing fine.
So when are you going to start calling yourself medium in Virginia?
Really, with all this weight loss, Kevin.
Or I think we should start calling him tiny.
Tiny in Virginia.
Oh, it said without the H. Leah. Oh. Oh. Oh, wait, more like a ya. Aliyah.
Aliyah.
Oh, boy, have I been saying it wrong. How many people want to make a bet I keep screwing it up next time?
I will put it in our spreadsheet with some phonetics.
Spec in Virginia. All right. Okay. Mike thinks laptops first. Be fun to have if they did a 12-inch MacBook, I might buy it. I think that would be a fun companion to a 16-inch MacBook Pro. This thing's heavy. Have a Play Mac and a Serious Mac. All right. Here we go. Muting Steve. I am a huge fan of the company Wise And I've talked to you before about their inexpensive indoor webcams, their light bulbs, their outlet switches, their proximity sensors, and motion detectors. My house is literally littered with products made by Wyze, and I haven't had to break the bank to enjoy all of these devices. But there's been one gap in their lineup of products, and that's an outdoor version of the Wyze Cam. Right now, there's a whole cottage industry built up about making cases for Wyze Cams so people can put them outside. My favorites are the ones that look like little birdhouse roofs. I watched a video by Wyze CEO Yun Zhang where he explained that they could have easily taken their popular camera, sealed it in a plexiglass box, and put it up for sale. But they wanted to make their outdoor camera to be much more than an original Wyze Cam in a box. Well, that long-anticipated product is finally here, and they've called it the Wyze Cam Outdoor. The indoor Wyze Cam is a white cube around 2 inches on a side. The Wyze Cam Outdoor is much bigger at 2 1/4 on a side. Now, that doesn't sound that much bigger, but that's actually 42% big. Okay, come on. Now, that doesn't. Now, that doesn't sound much bigger, but it's actually 42% bigger in volume. Don't worry, David, the math is in the show notes so you can check me. It's also much heavier than the indoor Wyze Cam. I'm not sure I cut that right. Let me try that. Check that. 2 1/4 on a side. Now, that doesn't sound much bigger, but it's actually 42%. And then I stopped myself too soon, so. Now, that doesn't sound that much bigger, but it's actually 42% bigger in volume. Don't worry, David, the math is in the show notes so you can check me. It's also much heavier than the indoor Wyze Cam. The outdoor cam has a large black convex circle on the front with a tiny lens embedded up near the top along with the motion sensor. Like the indoor version, the base is articulated so it can be tilted and rotated to your desired position. Unlike the indoor version where the base is part of the camera, on the outdoor version, the articulated base is actually removable and is held to the camera by a fairly powerful circular magnet. The Wyze Cam Outdoor is battery operated, so when you need to charge it, you simply pull it off its base, bring it inside, and plug it in via micro USB. The Wyze Cam Outdoor has two 2600 milliamp hour batteries, and they say they'll give you 3 to 6 months of battery life with normal use. With a battery-operated camera, you can mount it positively anywhere. When you pull the camera off of its articulated base, you'll also find a quarter inch, I'll get it yet. No. Can't screw that up. When you pull the camera off of its articulated base, you'll find a 1/4 threaded hole for easy mounting to tripods. On the underside of the camera, you'll also find the pairing button and a slot for a micro SD card to record videos and photos local to the camera. The one thing I did not expect when I pre-ordered the Wyze Cam Outdoor was that it came with a base station which you must connect to your router. The base station allows you to have up to 4 Wyze Cam Outdoors, or is that Wyze Cams Outdoor? Anyway, 4 cameras connected to it over Wi-Fi. The base station has a couple of problems it solves. Wyze says that the base station provides more reliable Wi-Fi range. They explain that with a long enough Ethernet cable, it allows you to get a better signal to the outdoor camera, which I suppose would be true. Now think about it. If you've got a mesh router system with LAN Ethernet ports on each unit, you can get the Wi-Fi signal even closer to the outdoor camera by choosing the closest mesh unit into which you would plug the base station. Now the base station does have another purpose, actually a couple other purposes, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. The Wyze app walks you through the setup of the base station in a few simple steps. After plugging the base station into power and your router, you push a little button on the base station and it will give you a blue light and tell you verbally that it is connected. After it queries you to name your base station, you know what happens next, right? Of course, there's a firmware update. Now, I am a fan of IoT devices that have firmware updates, so I do them immediately, but it's sort of like getting a remote control car for your birthday and then having to wait for the battery to charge before you can play with it. When you're done with the base station setup, it will give you an alarming screen. It'll say, Oh no, your base station isn't paired to a Wisecam Outdoor yet. Don't panic though, the same screen has a button to add a Wisecam Outdoor. The Wisecam Outdoor has a nearly invisible, small white rubber door on the back. Inside this secret compartment, you'll find a physical on-off switch if you don't trust all the software switches or you want to save battery and turn it off. And it has a micro US. Okay, it actually says micro UBS. Okay, I've got to fix that. I actually remember it saying that. Micro USB. And I think I also saw a spot where it had O-F.
Carol would be happy with that typo.
Oh. Nice. Okay, where was it? Let me start like here. When you're done with the base station. When you're done with the base station. When you're done with the base station setup, it will give you an alarming screen that says, "Oh no, your base station isn't paired to a Wisecam Outdoor yet." Don't panic though, that same screen has a button to add a Wisecam Outdoor. The Wisecam Outdoor has a nearly invisible small white rubber door on the back. Inside this secret compartment, you'll find a physical on-off switch. You can use that if you don't trust software switches or you want to save battery and keep it turned off for a while. You've also got the micro USB charging port inside that little door. On the bottom of the camera, there's a very difficult to open micro SD card slot to save your video recordings. I'm sorry. On the bottom, I changed this and I want to make sure I got it right. Okay. You're going to want one of these, Lindsay. On the bottom of the camera, there's a very difficult to open micro SD card slot to save your video recordings and still images, as well as a tiny white sync button. When pressed, it will happily tell you pairing is in progress. While this type of operation is almost always fiddly in IoT land, mine paired nearly immediately to my base station and offered to let me name the camera. Once paired, it asks you if you want to share with a family member. Why, yes, I do, as a matter of fact. Wise makes it super easy to share individual devices with anyone you want. And I really, really like that. Maybe you want a neighbor to keep an eye on your backyard camera, but not your kitchen camera. Wise makes it so you can do that. Now, Steve and I, of course, have separate accounts, but we share all of the same cameras. Now, guess what you do after that? Yep, a firmware update to the camera. Again, I urge you to be happy that Wise is constantly doing these firmware updates. These updates are often feature updates, but having them stay secure is even more important. Once this setup is complete, you can simply walk around any old place outdoors within 300 feet line of sight of your base station, so obviously shorter if it's behind a wall, and then you can set the camera down and enjoy the fun. The app lets you talk through the camera to scare away the nighttime possums and record the skunks and other critters to the micro SD card. Or you can simply listen if you want and take photos with the Wisecam Outdoor. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about the video and image quality of the camera because it's exactly like the indoor Wisecams that I've told you about before. Briefly, though, these cameras are 1080p, have motion detection, they allow you to talk through them so you can maybe scare away a burglar or annoy your pets. That's what we do with it. And you can listen to what's going on near the camera, like I said. Wisecams have a 110-degree viewing angle, which has served us well indoors, but it's a little bit limiting in an outdoor camera. 180 degrees would have been nice. If you want to read up on the specs about the angle of view, the operating temperature, how many night vision LEDs it has, the camera aperture, frame rate, and more, check out the full specs over at wise.com. Now, you might be wondering whether this camera is too easy to steal since it's removable from its base. Here's a couple things to think about. First of all, the Wisecam Outdoor plus the base station in the starter pack is a grand total of $50. When you're ready to buy another one, you don't need to buy another base station, so the camera alone is only $40. It's not a huge investment if somebody were to steal it. Secondly, the magnet that holds the camera to the base is really strong. When I first opened the box, I remembered hearing that there was a magnet holding the camera to the base, but it was so strong when I started pulling on it, I started doubting whether my memory was correct. Like maybe I'm going to break it if I pull on it. Now, once you're sure it's a magnet, it's not that hard to pull off, but I can imagine someone pulling and thinking, oh, shoot, I can't get this off. Now, if they were clever, I suppose they might try to pull the entire mounting base off the wall. But again, $40. Now, you might also think that a big drag is you would lose the video of the miscreant stealing your camera because they'd get the micro SD card as well. Well, guess what? All Wyze cams come with a free 14-day video recording in the cloud, so at the very least, you'd have a recording of the theft. But remember at the beginning I said that the base station had more than one purpose? If you put a memory card in the micro SD card on the base station, in the app you can tell the base station to keep a backup of all of your Wyze cams outdoor. I think that's super clever. And finally, if someone steals your Wyze cam outdoor, they can't enable it on their own account unless you remove it from yours. So that means they didn't even get something fun to play with. So the bottom line is that if an evil person steals your camera, they don't get a camera out of the deal. You get video of them stealing it, and you're only out $40 to replace it. So that's a win-win-win. Now, I've talked about how you can yank the Wyze cam outdoor from its magnetic base to bring it inside and charge, but being removable means you can move the camera anywhere you want at any time. I've been playing around with setting it in between our citrus trees to try and catch my cats doing something silly as they play around in there. Your imagination can go wild with the fun things you can record. Maybe you feel the need to do a time lapse of a mushroom. The Wyze cam Outdoor is the perfect tool for that. The base station for the Wyze cam Outdoor has another big trick up its sleeve. It can create its own ad hoc network, which allows you to take your Wyze cam Outdoor away from your Wi-Fi, your home Wi-Fi. The base station will require power, of course, but you can plug that into a battery pack since it's USB powered. You do need to set up your Wyze cam Outdoor for travel mode before you leave your network. I found the setup to be a little bit fiddly, as these things often are. You press a button on the base station and announces it's changing. Actually, you double tap on the base station one, and it announces that it's changing to travel mode, and then you connect your phone to the base station's Wi-Fi. The software tries to walk you through these steps methodically, and I'm quite skilled at this type of connection, and I think it took me 3 or 4 times before I got it to work. The base station creates the ad hoc network, but so does the camera, so I may have been connecting to the wrong one in some of those tests. In any case, once I had travel mode enabled, I was able to move the base station to an outdoor outlet for power, not connected to my network, and I could still play with the Wyze cam Outdoor all over my backyard without any problems at all. When I plugged the base station back into Ethernet on my router, the camera was back on my network with no faffing about getting it back connected. Now, you may be looking at the Wyze cam Outdoor because of its resistance to weather conditions. I live in Southern California near the beach, so we basically get no weather at all. It rains maybe 15 inches a year, which I think most places they consider that spitting, not raining. The temperature normally idles around 72 degrees Fahrenheit most of the year, with highs into the mid-80s, except today, of course. And the lows get into like the 50s maybe. So we don't really have weather. In other words, I cannot personally vouch for the Wyze cam Outdoor's ability to withstand extreme weather conditions. However, if you want to learn about the testing they did, Wyze did this fantastic video about it. The first 9 minutes or so are super fun, showing them climbing into water fountains with it and such. But at 9 minutes and 20 seconds into the video, the CEO, another guy whose name I wasn't able to find, they explained that they were ready for their beta testers at 9 minutes and 20 seconds into the video. They sent out 200 beta test units to people from Arizona to Alaska, and those people tested it under extreme real-world conditions. The reason I believe them is that around 10 minutes into the video, they explained that while the weatherproofing was reported as working very well, the beta testers identified some issues where the seal around the bottom of the black circle in which the lenses contained had light leak and caused washed-out imagery. They fixed the light leak problem, set out a new batch of test units, and eventually they got a 97% thumbs up from the beta testers to launch the product. Now, I couldn't go without any testing, so I put my Wyze cam in the sink and I ran water over it while recording its view, and then I tried it in my freezer with infrared mode on. This incredibly scientific and robust testing procedure gave me full confidence that the Wyze cam Outdoor will work under the conditions within the IP65 specifications that Wyze claims it has. Now, according to Wikipedia, IP code stands for Ingress Protection Code, where the first digit is the solid particle protection And the second digit is liquid ingress protection. Now remember they said IP65. So the 6 is going to be the solid particles and the 5 is going to be the liquid ingress. Solid particle protection level 6 means no ingress of dust, complete protection against complete protection against contact, dust tight. A vacuum must be applied. Test duration up to 8 hours based on airflow. That sounds pretty good. The second digit for liquid ingress means water projected by a nozzle against enclosure from any direction shall have no harmful effects. Test duration is 1 minute per square meter for at least 3 minutes. Water volume 12.5 liters per minute. Pressure 30 kilopascals, I'm going to say. I think that was at 4.4 psi at a distance of 3 meters or 9.8 feet. In other words, dust-proof and water jet-proof, but not submerge under waterproof. Finally, because I was an early access backer, my Wisecam Outdoor came with a hat. It's a black tri-cornered cowboy hat that fits snugly over the rectangular top with a small cutout for the lens area. It has no real functional purpose, except I suppose it might keep rain, snow, and dust off the camera. But with that IP65 level weatherproofing, I'm not sure that's necessary. But you know what? It's really adorable. Now, I thought I was super special getting the one with the hat. But then I looked on their website. They had 83,093 early access backers. Isn't that insane? It's little touches, though, like this hat that makes Wise such a beloved company. Wise is a company that keeps their users super engaged by being very honest and giving specific explanations of what they're doing. They do fun videos all the time where they even admit problems. They send out status updates on delivery of early adopter units. They're fun, and they're clearly enjoying what they're doing. Their beta test users are rabidly loyal to them, as you can imagine, and their early access backers, like me, are evangelists. Oh, and they make really good stuff at incredibly affordable prices. And don't forget, security expert Steve Gibson says they do security right. I think they've hit another home run with the Wisecam Outdoor, even though it's not HomeKit compatible, works with Google and that A-lady. But I'm probably going to buy more of them. They're on pre-order right now, so put your order in if you want one, because they're sure to sell like hotcakes. Remember, Wise canceled their affiliate program, so you know I have no vested interest in this company. I simply love their products. Wise just sent me a coupon for $20 off their smart lock. I need to start working on a justification to convince Steve I need one for our second deadbolt door.
Pod feed.
I can't believe you walked away when I made a joke about you, Steve.
Oh, what was the joke?
I said it does time lapse. So if you feel the need to do a time lapse of a mushroom,
yes,
you can do it.
So you addressed Lindsay, but she's gone. I mean, she left the chat room.
Oh.
Terry joined us.
Oh, good. Hi, Terry. Oh, good. And is he asking Sandy about the creep?
He certainly is.
Maybe you're the creep in your Prius.
And both Frank and Mike Price are having issues with the iCloud update. I didn't even notice it, but
what iCloud update?
I didn't. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know there was one, but. So
what do you
this
mean?
is something that comes in through the Mac OS update or an iOS, or is this something? I'm not sure, because that's a server kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't understand. I've never seen.
I don't know what the
iCloud
update is, but apparently something in iCloud has updated. Maybe in the Mac OS update they call out some of the changes are.
But there wasn't a Mac OS update this week.
There was a small one. Normally these kind of changes are in the large.
There was?
Yeah, I got a little one.
This week?
Maybe it was a week ago. Yeah. And maybe I'm late.
Oh, but maybe they're talking about one from before. All right.
So Dave says he checked iCloud on the web, no update that he can see. So I'm not sure which update it is. Anyway, they're having troubles with it.
Okay. All right. Okay, here we go.
Are you taking it home?
Nope.
Oh, you got another one? Oh, you got
stuff
that's
to do. There you go. Well, I'm sorry about this, but it's time for another pledge break from the bizarre mind of Frank Petrie. I just muted you, and you're making noise again. Did you mute you too?
I muted when you muted, so now let me mute.
I'm in charge of muting you. All right, here we go. Let's see. Look at deadbolt door. Well, I'm sorry about this, but it's time for another pledge break from the bizarre mind of Frank Petrie. Jesus, loud. Let's bring that down. And I think I'll give it a little bit of space. All right. Our mind of Frank Petrie. Actually, that's just too loud. I'm going to give that a... how do I... I don't think I can fade in. Oh, yeah, I can. There we go. Bizarre mind of Frank Petrie. Oops, sorry. Hang on. Escape. But it's time for another pledge break from the bizarre mind of Frank Petrie.
Good evening. I'm bored and sick of this job. Tonight's lead stories: Apple buys Eastern Europe.
Sorry, I'm going to do that a little bit more.
Good evening. I'm bored and sick of this job. Tonight's lead stories: Apple buys Eastern Europe. Pigs learn to fly in Hecklerville. And Hades freezes over. But first, we go to Bob Four Apples out in the field. Bob?
What the?
Thanks, Bob. Now, with some breaking news, is Chester Fields. Chester?
Thanks, Board. Tonight we bring you a podcaster's anguished cry for help. As you know, podcasting is hard work. For example, take the NosillaCast. 15 years of dedication and sacrifice, and yet bringing this trove of information each and every week exacts a cost, a financial cost. Listeners can help by contributing what they can by becoming a Patreon member at podfeet.com/Patreon, or make a one-time donation through PayPal at podfeet.com/PayPal. Board?
Thanks, Chester. Now here's tomorrow's weather with Melanie. Melanie?
Yeah, you really don't want to know.
Thanks, Melanie. Well, from all of us here, we're going to go home, watch some TV while eating potato chips in our underwear, and nod off on the couch. Good night.
Okay, I can't. That audio is too loud. Let's see if that'll work.
Couch. Good night.
There we go. All right. Done it again, Frank. If you think this is weird, the next one frightens you. Oh, good. That's not what I want to hear.
Have you received the next one?
No, I'm afraid. I might have to change my email address.
Wait, you wouldn't have Allison at podfeed.com?
Oh, well, but if it's Frank, if
Everything,
it's Frank.
Everything's at podfeed.com.
Everything good starts with Podfeed. Well, I could be podfeed.com/Allison. I don't know. Let's hear how this sounds. A little too long. I wish I had better control. I don't like this editor. I want a different audio editor.
Which one?
Good night.
I can't fix that. It's... All right, here we go. How's that? Is that too fast?
I didn't hear it. Do it again.
Okay, fourth time.
I would do a little faster. Too much of a gap.
What? There's
Too much of
no
a gap.
gap.
Because
Look,
you
look at the audio.
No, it's because you wound it down. Because the audio is coming down so much.
Yep. There is zero
You can't
gap.
hear the last part of that.
Yeah, but I want a little gap.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, listen again.
Good night.
Oh, I
I'm
can
not
live with
doing
it.
I'm not doing more gap or less gap.
Less gap. Less gap.
No.
All right, chat room.
What's this end?
Less gap.
I'm not doing it. Well, it's that time of the week again. It
Ooh.
is time for Security Bits with Bart Bouchatz. How are
I
you
just
today,
hear
Bart?
you on one side.
I am doing just fine.
I hear you left and right.
Summer has decided to go on holidays, unfortunately.
But
so
you mixed
for the
down to
first time
mono,
in
right?
Weeks, I got wet on my cycle today, but yeah,
Yes.
I'll live.
Well, I think it came to my house. It's 85 degrees. Yep. That isn't always the case.
No, that's the first time I've heard left and right like that.
Oh, I bet if I do this, if I do. Wait, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Uh-oh. No. Option T. Let me see if it's probably stereo now. It is time for
There you go.
Security Bits with Bart
Much better.
Bouchatz. How are you today, Bart?
I am doing just fine. Summer has decided to go on holidays.
I've got noise on my side.
Oh, well, I can't hear it, but I have the audio ability of.
Oh, it's because I'm talking about the fact that my fans are going. All right. Security Bits. Let's see. What do I want? I want NosillaCast outro. Nope, that's the audio. I got to read the outro first. All right. Go right here. Preview. Here we go. Home stretch, guys. Home stretch. You can
don't
make it.
You don't put in a chapter mark for the pledge break?
I did for the pledge break, but you know what I didn't do it for? I didn't do it for the...
I don't see it.
Well, I'm pointing directly at it.
No, but I don't see the info to the right of it.
What would you like me to put to the right of it?
You're saying you don't have. Well, there's no blog post, no URL. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can live with
Nope. Oh, thank you, dear. But what you should be saying is, where's the security bits link?
that. Where is it?
It's not there. So you give me a hard time for the wrong thing.
So I was just subliminally catching the
Wrong.
security bits
Mm-hmm.
missing link.
I mean, if Frank wants to make a blog post for these, no, they're too weird. Not going to do it. Okay, I'm going to start here. Okay, and I'm going to finish up here. Here we go.
Quiet the bad guys have been. My advice still remains: stay patched so you stay secure.
Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeed.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Podfeed. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. Listen to Frank. Go to podfeed.com/Patreon to become a patron of the Podfeed podcast. If you want to do a one-time donation, podfeed.com/PayPal. Want to join our Facebook community? Podfeed.com/Facebook. Would you rather be on Slack? Podfeed.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Aaliyah did for the first time this week, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Kevin may even behave himself. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.
Can I suggest you do that again with Aaliyah?
What
Joining
did I
us?
say?
Oh, did you say Aaliyah? Oh, I missed it. Okay.
Wait, do you listen to this show at all?
No, I didn't. Clearly.
Join our Facebook community, podfeed.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, like Aaliyah did for the first time this week, head on over. I even wrote her name down on this piece of paper, and I read it, and I looked at the pronunciation I wrote down, and I read it, and you're telling me to do it.
Oh, that's great.
My life is like this.
Well-
Oh yeah, this is awesome.
So just think of me as you're the belt and I'm the suspenders, just in case.
No, but you're like got suspenders around a tree. You're like doing something completely else. Oh, subscribe. All right. Now, in 15 minutes, I will do the rest of the show. I will knock this thing out. So, thank you everybody for coming. I don't think anybody wants to watch me do it, but it was fun having you guys all here. Thank you for joining us, Aaliyah. That was really cool. Glad to have you here. You want to say goodbye, Steve?
Oh. Good night,
He's
Gracie.
off doing something else.
Is there a
All
show
right,
going
take
on?
us out, Steve.
Good night, Gracie. All right.
All right.
Cutting
Oh,
off.
wait, Franco. Who's Franco? We've had Franco before. Hi, Franco. Glad to see you. Nice talking to you. I feel like we had some quality time together.